My name is Keenan Wagner. Around 9 years old, my dad left. My mom struggles with substances as well. So I kind of grew up in and around alcohol and substances. I started hanging out with kids who we were smoking weed, we were doing mushrooms, we were doing ecstasy. I think I was in grade 6 or 7 when this was going on. I started not going to school, I started getting suspensions. And then I ended up going to high school, and high school is when it really got pretty bad for me. I ended up dropping out of high school in grade 9. So I grew up with my mom in the household using substances, so it was just normal to me, right? Like mine and my mom's substances caused a lot of problems between us, right? Like we fought a lot, and we were both suffering. She ended up kicking me out, and I went to a homeless shelter. And as I was living at this homeless shelter, I think I was like 14 at the time, there was a house like 2 houses down the street where this older guy, he partied all the time, and he would have like the youth from the youth shelter come over to his house, and he would get us drunk and we would party. There was a lot of stuff going on in that house that wasn't safe. Getting blackout drunk and stuff, he was taking advantage of us, and like it was a pretty like bad environment for a 14-year-old to be hanging out in. I was in a relationship with a girl at the time, started using cocaine, and like we ended up breaking up, and like that was when I took my addiction like to the whole next level, because I tried crystal meth before that, but that's when I really started using it daily. I started hanging out with worse and worse people, right? Like it progressed. Hanging out with like people who are on the streets, people who are in and out of like the homeless shelters, in and out of jail. My first time going to jail, I was 12 years old. I like to be in youth jail because they have like good food, they have a gym, they have classes. I had it a lot better in there than I did being out on the street. So I never really cared about the consequences of going to jail. A few years ago, my Nana passed away, and that is when my addiction took another leap, and I started using fentanyl. In my head, I wanted to kill myself. I was overdosing, and people kept bringing me back. But after a while, I became dependent on it. Started using needles as well. So I was mixing crystal meth with fentanyl. Couldn't even spend a night in a homeless shelter because I wouldn't show up for curfew because I cared too much about getting high. In and out of jail constantly, get a little bit healthy again, and I would go back and just pick up where I left off. There was a time I was at my sister's house, no shoes on, it was the middle of winter, and there was like a couple weeks before that I told my sister that I'm gonna go to detox, like I need to get better, like this is getting to be too much, like I'm going through way too much, and this is just really, like I don't want to live this way anymore. Called detox, and when I was in there, most of the time I just slept, like, because I was very sleep deprived and I was very malnourished. But they started like saying like, so you got to figure out something for your next steps. I ended up going to their program, 25 beds here in Toronto for homeless adults that are waiting to get into treatment. So I was at the DARE program for about 4 months while I was waiting to get into treatment. Got into a treatment center from there. After I got out of treatment, I went back to the DARE program. I already got into contact with Alpha House at that point. I was on a wait list, checking in every single week. And then the night before I came to Alpha House, I was in my cubicle and I was praying because it's a rough area being in the DARE program. It's a homeless shelter, right? Like you're around a lot of substance use. You're around like all the stuff that you're working so hard to get away from. The next day, Jack called me and told me that they had a bed for me here at Alpha House. I thought that I could do it on my own. Biggest thing that Alpha House did for me was introduce me to the 12 steps. But there's like an endless amount of things that Alpha House did for me. Like they had me get into a regular schedule, being held accountable. Like I had doctor's appointments. I was on medications that I was working on getting off of, and they supported me through that. I got my first job while I was here at Alpha House. Like I've never had a job that lasted more than 2 weeks. There's just like countless responsibilities that I was held accountable for here at Alpha House that I've never had growing up. There's so much support and fellowship. Like I met like my best friend to this day here at Alpha House. He taught me so much about being a friend, like, because I never had friends where you didn't steal from each other and you weren't lying to each other, you weren't manipulating each other. Like, I learned to be able to be a friend without using or manipulating the friendship. Nobody here knew me a day in my life. So many people that were just welcoming with like open arms. The staff here, they all are in recovery as well. They can all relate firsthand to what I was going through, and like, yeah, like I really connected with all of the counselors here. Like they all do tremendous work here. Just the environment in the house was very, very special to me. Like Alpha House really showed me how to live, like to be like a functioning member of society, which is something I've never experienced in my life. Before I didn't have ID, I didn't have anything like that. Now I go to work regularly, I have a credit card, I have a bank account, I have ID, I have savings, I have like all these things that were so foreign to me in my active addiction. Like the life I'm living now is like crazy compared to the life that I was living before. Cooking was always a passion that I had before I lost myself in addiction. So I did a lot of cooking, barbecuing. Then I got a passion for cooking steak while I was here.
Take us through cooking the perfect steak.
So I bought sous vide. It's like an immersion circulator. So you like season it, you vacuum seal it, then you put it in your sous vide cooker and it cooks for about 2 hours, like a perfect medium rare. And then I take it out and I pat it dry and I bring it outside, and I bought a big blowtorch that I sear the steak with. Every time you cook it, it's like perfect edge to edge medium rare.